Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some special guests in the building.
Yes, indeed.
They got a new book out right now. You Deserve to Be Rich. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Rashad Bilal and Troy Millings. Welcome.
What's going on?
Good morning.
What's going on, y'all?
You know it's a special day when Rashad break out the Biggie coupe. He break out the Biggie coupe.
Obviously, hip-hop. Hip-hop is always on the mind.
It's that time, man. New money.
First, how y'all feeling, man?
We good, man.
good.
The theme music was playing when we walked in. I like that. This is good stuff.
Oh, Mack had the theme music on.
Yeah.
Money.
Money.
I feel like a book is overdue for y'all.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah, people.
Long overdue.
Yeah.
People kind of felt the same way, right? It was one of those things where, like, when's the book coming? When's the book coming? Everybody asks us questions everywhere we go. Where's the book coming? Book's here.
How did y'all know now was the right time?
Well, we've been working on it for 2 years.
Okay.
So, it's like putting out your first album. You want to make sure, it's right. Like, we've done so much stuff, like crazy amount of stuff in a short period of time. We didn't want to rush the book. Like, it's like a documentary. Like, you got to take your time with it. So then we kind of figured out what kind of book we wanted to write. So, that whole process we took our time with. So it's been 2 years in the making, and it's pretty much just like a whole blueprint as far as financial freedom. So we're real proud of it, and it's definitely a hard process.
Yeah.
Obviously, you do a lot of
we spoke to both of y'all about, like, when you put out your book, Envy, when you was putting out your book, you had just released it. We were, like, trying to get the feedback, like, what's the process like? Even if you got an author, you work with somebody, what's the process like? So when we went into it, it was like, all right, we have certain expectations, and I remember you was like, make sure it sounds like y'all. And when we went to the meetings, it was like, this has to sound like it's coming directly from us, and I think we nailed it.
So what is it about? Do you break down how y'all started and how y'all got together, or is it more about financial literacy, or is it both?
Both. We talk about, like, how we started, the backstory, but it really focused more so on, like, so it's like 6 different people, and it tracks their journey. It's like a single mom, somebody that just graduated from college. So, and then it's like real life situations, like, okay, this person's credit is messed up. This person needs to get a single family home. So we're teaching, but it's in story form. And that's been the whole point of our platform, right? Like, we highlight people that's relatable. So it's better than us just, like, teaching from a whiteboard. So we put it in story format, and it teaches you about crypto, stocks, real estate, credit, but, like, in an entertaining way because it's in story format. So it's like a pathway for financial freedom, and everything that we talk about just, like, in a concise encyclopedia type of format.
Yeah. It's designed for, the audience or the reader to identify with one of those characters. And if you don't, somebody that is identifying with them. But like you said, we share stuff in there as well. So like when we talk about financial trauma, that's something unique to us that we had to experience and go through. And what were the lessons we learned from it? Obviously, being where we're at now, there were mistakes that were made along the way, but we've grown from them. And here are the lessons so that everybody else can learn from them as well.
How do y'all break down everybody's journey is different, right? Because somebody might look at your journey and say, you know what, I'm gonna do a podcast. And then they'd be like, after 6 years, they'd be like, I'm not where they at. You know what I mean? Or, you see people say, all right, I'm gonna jump on the, on the book thing. And they'd be like, I ain't where Charlamagne at. So what do you tell people that? Because people like to follow what people do. And sometimes everybody's journey and everybody's path is different. And the success you guys have with podcasts is not gonna be the success of somebody else that's trying to do a financial podcast. So what do you tell people in that plane when it comes to investing in crypto and things like that?
Investing's for everybody. So anybody can invest in stocks. Anybody, can buy real estate. Anybody can do crypto. That's for anybody. Now, business is a little different because you're right. You're not going to have the same success as Breakfast Club just because you're passionate about talking on a microphone. So that you have to really dig deep and see, okay, what am I passionate about? But also, how can I help people? That's really our thing is like, how can you help people, right? Like a lot of times people go into business for selfish reasons, just to make money. Like we did that before, it didn't work. So what did work was when we actually had a platform that actually helped people, right? So you got to really look at yourself and say, okay, what am I passionate about? What am I talented? That's another thing too. Like there's a certain level of talent to it. Like people think that everything is just easy, and it's like you got to have a level of skill to be successful as an entrepreneur, no matter what you're doing. So that takes a little bit more like self-evaluation, working with other people. And then sometimes you don't have to be the main part of it either. Like you could be part of a business and it's not your business, but you have a great skill set. Like you're a great tech guy, right? Somebody else is great with ideas. Now you come together, and that's a way to kind of be part of a business as opposed to just being the Elon Musk forward-facing ultra, alpha entrepreneur.
The Diddy of it all. Elon Musk is like the Diddy of tech. I was just having that conversation
You
about
see that? Everybody put their head down like, you know what I mean? Touching that.
You know what I mean? Like you want to be all up in the
Man.
videos. You know what I'm saying?
Never
You
stop.
want to be all on the records.
Yo, it's funny. They look at you like, wow.
Here you go.
God damn, y'all know.
Here
I know what Diddy is now, but I'm talking about
Yeah, we know
prior.
where he's at now, man.
I was having that conversation this weekend, just talking about the whole
God.
oligarchs running America. I'm like, oligarchs been running America. Like Diddy's just the guy. I mean, I said Diddy.
You
Elon's just the guy
That's
that's
mine.
forward facing with.
That's a
You
fact.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's it.
he's forward facing and he's the wealthiest man on the planet.
Absolutely.
Those two things are very dangerous, right? And you're talking about having a media platform, having the technology, and having the capital.
He got all of it.
He got all three of those things, and he has the political power now. So it's something that we definitely got to be mindful of. and watch.
Elon and Donald Trump like the same thing as far as they both are forward facing. They're saying things that people used to say in private.
Absolutely.
Like Donald Trump is no different from any other president, but
That's
nobody
right.
else would say this on Twitter.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is no different from a lot of other CEOs, but nobody would say this on Twitter. But that does speak to something that's a disturbing trend because they didn't say it before because they knew that it was bad protocol to say it.
That's right. It was bad for business.
Now it's good for business.
It's actually
It's
elevated
actually
business.
helpful
Yeah.
for business. So it says a lot about the times that we're in.
Yeah.
Sure.
So whose fault is that then?
I
I think when the consumer's appetite changes, you should change with the consumer's appetite, right?
Well, the problem with the consumer, a lot of them are uneducated, right? And so they'll support things just because they heard a rally call and it's like, all right, well, I don't know any better. That looks like the right path to go, so I'll support that. When we talk about a guy who runs up $200 billion and didn't sell a car, it had nothing to do with that. It just became a belief. We believe in what he's doing. We believe in what he's saying, and to the point where, like, I'm going to support it no matter what. And so now, like, you look at the fundamentals of a company like Tesla, well, why is it making money, right? They actually sold less cars, right? Now, obviously it's not an automotive company. It's a tech company, but even further than that, it's a belief company that people are saying, all right, we believe in him. We believe in the things he's saying. We're championing the things he's saying. We're going to support him.
But even bigger than that, it speaks to racist white ring political agenda that he's pushing. When you look at the UK, he's championing. They about to get this guy elected in the UK and Canada. Like Elon Musk, really a dangerous person because he has a global view of how the world should be, and it's extreme right wing, and that's something that is actually helping him because we got to be honest, there is a lot of racist people, and this agenda that he's pushing, these things that he's saying is in line with what Trump is saying, but it's in line with 70% of the new elected officials in the world is right wing extremists, from Brazil to you name it, all across so this is something that is beneficial as far as people are championing something that they like, but that's not necessarily something that's just like a good thing because they're championing ideas that's white supremacy. And that's obviously not beneficial if you're not white.
Well, I think people who are on the other side are, people who are not white supremacists. They have to figure out how to use these platforms the way that the right has. I feel like they just haven't adjusted their.
What platforms you referring to?
All of them. Social media.
We don't own the platforms though.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like you get kicked off, or you get. All right, Elon Musk is one thing, but let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg go any direction that the wind goes. So right now he's doing everything to appease Trump, everything. But 6 months ago,
That's a business decision though.
it's all business.
Yeah.
But I'm saying but they don't have any ownership. That's what I'm saying. Like we're not in control of any of these situations, so we can only go too far. You go too far, you get deplatformed. Nobody's trying to do that. Nobody's trying to just lose money. Who owns all these platforms? Everybody that owns a platform gave money to Donald Trump for his inauguration. I've never seen anything like this. You got Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post. He, for the first time in 60 years, they didn't even elect. They didn't even
say who they was voting
endorse.
for.
Well, I think that's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is amplification and suppression.
Yeah.
That's what I think the bigger issue is.
And-
Because you can they got the voices are there,
Yeah.
but they're just being suppressed.
But who's but the voices is marginalized because it's on the ground level. They don't have real power.
Right.
Like
Who are you speaking of when you say who?
any of the voices that you're referring to.
I'm talking about like elected officials. I'm talking about like other Democratic governors. I'm talking about Democratic senators. I'm talking about people like the vice president when she was running. I'm talking about those. They got huge voices.
No, they had a voice and then they got dethroned.
They got suppressed, you mean?
However you want to word it.
And that's what I mean. But that's what I mean. Those individuals have to find ways to use these platforms the way the right has. The right has turned all of these platforms into megaphones. Before Trump was in office, before Trump got back in power, they found a way to use these platforms and turn them into megaphones. Democrats got to do the same thing.
It was forward thinking, right?
Yes.
The way that people, even like our parents, the way they consume information is a lot different than the way that the voting margin is consuming news, right?
Trump didn't do no legacy media.
You didn't have to, right?
None.
Because he
All
had
podcasts.
He had social media, and he had that generation of people that use that as a platform. So when he's talking about something different, it's like we don't own any of these platforms. So when Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post and they don't endorse anybody, that speaks a lot. This is the fourth wealthiest person in the world. Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook. We're talking about 4 billion people. We don't own that, right? So like, how do we have that voice? We already know what Rupert Murdoch is doing with his station.
Absolutely.
Right? And so like if we lose all these media outlets and we don't have control or ownership in any of them, and then we start to see, hey, this guy has now been, he's won the election and you're going to meet with him, here's $1 million to the campaign. Here's $1 million to the campaign. They're starting to do it. It's starting to feel like they did it in a sense where it's like, we want to make sure that business continues. As
You're right. And it goes back to business, right? Because if Fox has the highest ratings and Fox is getting the most revenue, what do you think CNN's going to do? CNN's going to say, hey, man, we a little too left-leaning. We got to start serving the conservative base. I don't know if MSNBC will ever get on that same train, but most platforms, that's exactly what they did. It was like, yo, these are the platforms that are booming. We need the ratings and revenue too. Let's lean a little bit more conservative.
Well, who's watching those shows? Like, who's voting? It goes back to the education process, right? Like, who is that base, right? Predominantly, if you look at the margins of who's voting, uneducated white folks, right? That's a large base of people. That's
It changed a lot this election, though.
It did. We started to see more.
You know
because, and that was the thing.
Now you got Latinos, now you got black people, you got women.
Even the issues that they won on, if you know like when we're talking about inflation, right? We need prices to go down. If you don't know the education behind that, like, do you know how inflation works? Do you know what price gauging is? And even after Trump won, he said, look, I know people talking about the price of eggs going down, but that's prices don't go down once they go up, right? Once people start paying at that amount, that becomes the new price. That's business. If you don't know that and you're like a year later, like, you know what, I'm still paying the same price for my groceries. Yeah, you are, right? But that was the campaign promise that you hear until it's like, oh, wait, what happened to that?
But, Elon, you look at how powerful he is. He was really powerful if you think about it by just listening, right? Just think about any of these dealerships, right? Or any of these car companies, whether it's Toyota, Ford, you name it. Do we know who runs them? Do we know who owns them? Do we see them out? No, right? Even with Elon, you look at what made Tesla so big. He listened to people. I want a self-parking car. I push a button and parks it himself. You didn't see that before. I want a car that I can control with my phone. You never seen that before. Now, when they started not finding him, when they started taxing him, what did he say? You know what? I'm gonna drop $30,000 off all my cars. We've never seen that before.
Move the plant to
When
Texas.
somebody could go get a lease for $199, you never see that before.
No,
So
Elon's
smart, man.
probably one of the smartest people in human history. Like, you can't first of all, he starts PayPal. You don't even know that. So he starts PayPal, sells PayPal for $200 million. Most people, you get $200 million, it's over. He actually goes broke because he invests all of that money not into Tesla, into SpaceX. SpaceX didn't even work out at first. Then Tesla came. Now he has Tesla. He has SpaceX, which is a private company, but then he has Neuralink, which is a chip that they could put inside your brain. He owns 70% of the satellites in space. So he's a very intelligent person, and he started OpenAI.
He's trying to get that back.
But he's dangerous. He's very dangerous. He's a very dangerous person. And the agenda that he's pushing, like even I was telling you about this DEI thing, it's disturbing. But you say things enough and people just start to believe it, right? And it's like, this attack on DEI is just, can we curse?
yeah,
Of course.
It's like a politically correct way to say nigga, really. Because if you think, because there is no DEI, if you think about it, like there's less than 1% of Fortune 500 companies that have black CEOs. There's 7% of people in tech that are black. That's less than half of the black population percentage-wise, right? When you look at the wealth gap, it's as high as it's ever been, right? So where are we seeing? We have 1%, less than 1% of venture capital funds, and we manage less than 1% of money, even though it's been proven that black wealth money managers actually outperform whites like Robert Smith. So there's no DEI. This whole thing of DEI is just an illusion, but it's really like there's some places in the world where they have permanent underclass, like India, where you can never rise above. And that's just like a caste system. So this whole DEI thing that they're pushing, the reason why it's so dangerous is because if they say this enough, what they're really saying is that no black person is qualified for any job that's not just menial.
We don't want y'all leading.
Yeah, right.
Any job that's meaningful
That's
is
right.
you're not qualified for. So if you have a meaningful job, the first thing that they can say is, "Oh, you only got it because you was black."
That's right.
So they don't really want black people to have any level of power, anything at all. And that's something that he's pushing. He's championing that. So why you guys say like, okay, you're the richest person in the world. You put $200 million into a campaign, and then you got $200 billion out of it in 6 weeks. You're worth $400 billion. You're gonna become a trillionaire in 5 years. So why is it so important for you to push DEI? Right?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you said that. People got mad at me because I said last year that these corporate DEI initiatives were bullshit. Because a lot of them weren't for us, by us. You can't have a bunch of white people sitting around creating DEI programs for us, and that's why they were so easy to get rid of. And I think you guys know, better than most. When you have real equity in something, you can't just take it away. And I think that's what it is. It's a lot of diversity, but it's not real equity.
Yeah, but even at DEI, when we obviously the George Floyd moment was big in starting that or continuing, when they were talking about allocating hundreds of millions of dollars, who's tracking the money?
That's right.
Where did the money go?
It never went.
This is what I'm saying.
Never got it.
So
Yeah.
when you like, who's now going to say, hey, we never got the money, right? Like, where's the voice, right? Where is the platform that say, hey, all these people promised this $100 million from Microsoft. Where did it go? What happened to it? How come we never got it?
You can't control what you don't own. You can't control what you don't own. It's like leasing. Like you don't own the car. You're gonna give it back. Like they put these DEI initiatives, or it's like the record industry, it's like music industry. They give people these record labels. What does that really mean? It's still under Universal. Nobody owns a record label. Nobody owns a record label. It's just distribution that they're giving you. It's a title. You're just a manager. You could be replaced at any given moment. Liquor company, the same thing. Like all of our billionaires became billionaires because of partnerships. White billionaires became billionaires because of ownership.
Innovation.
It's a different. You seen what happened with Ye. They could take a partnership away. Now you're not a billionaire yet. You see what happened with Diddy. You can't take Elon Musk because it's ownership. He has ownership in the company. It's in the stock market. There's 5,000 companies that's on the stock market. 7 are black. 7 out of 5,000.
Yeah. And that's a decrease. It used to be 12.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like this, that's what I'm saying. People don't really look at it from that standpoint. It's like,
well, when you say take away, they did sever ties with Ye, but they still had to pay him out.
no, but I'm saying he lost his billionaire status because it was tied to Yeezy brand, right? And Yeezy brand was Adidas, essentially. So he owned 100% of Yeezy, but it was really nothing without Adidas. So when Adidas severed his ties, because people look at a billionaire, it's not like he had $1 billion and he's just swimming in it like Scrooge McDuck. Like it goes by the valuation of your company. So they could devalue your company at any given time. Now they take away $600 million overnight. This has happened 2 times in the last 4 years with black people, because like I said, our billionaires are not billionaires from ownership. Our billionaires are billionaires from partnership.
I agree with you 100%. The only reason I don't like using those 2 examples because they made poor choices.
No, but a lot of people make poor choices. But what I'm saying is that you can't erase some of it. Like Donald Sterling, he made poor choices, but
Lost
he
his
got
team.
richer.
I made more money.
That's what I mean.
got richer.
He had to sell it, but that's what I
But
mean. Like that's the
you
same
can't
thing.
sell what you don't own.
But Ye sold his portions of Yeezy.
No, you can't sell.
Remember when he had all of the backlog with Adidas and they had to still
Merchandise.
use him?
The merchandise.
Yeah, they still had to use
But
them.
I'm talking about the actual equity in the company. You can't sell what you don't own.
Yeah, he didn't have no choice with that. He couldn't sell it. Remember, he didn't want it released. They released it anyway.
Yeah.
They put it in the
It's
stores.
essentially-
That's just the merchandise.
You got a licensing deal, and I love Yeezy. Like he's one of my favorites. But I'm just saying he'll probably tell you it was a learning experience, right? Like it's all a facade.
But how do y'all feel? I got 2 questions. How do y'all feel when, like, all of us were out supporting Diddy, right? When he had the liquor, right? And Drink Ciroc and this, that, and the other. And then it comes out that he didn't own it.
He had 30%
But
equity.
his pathway was to ownership.
Yeah.
He made a mistake.
People-
We're not taking ownership in Ciroc. Then the De Leon.
Yeah, but
thing
that
happens.
was a process in itself, right? In order for him to get the first deal, that was part of the stipulations, right? He had to first prove it, and he did it with Ciroc, and people were like, "Oh, we felt like, oh, he owns that." The next thing was De Leon, which he's going to have 100% ownership in, right? So we saw that getting pushed, and that led to the lawsuit.
50%
ownership inside of that, and then the way it was being marketed was a lot different than it was for Ciroc, right? When we saw Ciroc, it was like the jet skis, and it was a huge push for that. And when it came time for De Leon, you didn't see that as much,
Yeah,
right?
did you
see De Leon marketed like you saw Ciroc marketed?
Hell no.
Just Young Miami.
Is that a
De Leon was
coincidence?
nasty.
Is that a coincidence?
That was
Is
it.
Shout out to her.
Is that a coincidence?
See that? No, I'm gonna tell you why. See, we not being
You don't find
honest.
that suspicious?
We're not being honest. De Leon wasn't that good.
Oh, come on. It's all good. Like,
no. Not only was
nobody's tasting.
Ciroc wasn't that good though.
Ciroc was better.
Nobody's like a connoisseur.
Yo, listen.
I don't
Ciroc
really
wasn't
consume
that
alcohol
good.
like that.
We not liquor.
I'm a tequila drinker.
Nobody's like a liquor. I'm saying.
I'm a tequila drinker.
To Casamigos that good?
No.
All
But I
that
drink
shit is
Casamigos.
nasty.
But
You drink it to get drunk though. Like all of that shit
Exactly.
is nasty.
But
You know what I'm
Casamigos
saying?
got embraced by the culture, just like Ciroc did.
Why?
Because Diddy was pushing them.
No,
Casamigos.
Oh, I don't know why Casamigos got.
Because rappers put it in their songs.
I guess.
Same thing with Tequila.
And George Clooney ran up to $1 billion.
Ran up to $1 billion. It's kind of when
But
Usher
Clooney
was
wasn't out
said
here all in
Tequila
the
and that shit
videos,
too.
all on the records. Like, I don't know why. I really don't know why Casamigos got so popular. I don't know why.
Yeah, people put it in the records.
Put it in the records.
But I want to ask you too, right? Chapter 10, you talk about entrepreneurship.
So,
right?
wait. So De Leon was in the records too.
No, but it wasn't
Not
the
like-
same
no,
push
I'm
that you
saying.
gave it to Ciroc.
Yeah.
You know that?
It wasn't like.
Commercials.
So, so you
It was
telling me
actually-
Casamigos told the rappers to put it in their
Nah,
music?
but
No.
bigger than the rap music, it's about in the shelf life, right?
Culture, yeah.
When you go to a bar, when you go to a club, when you go to a fine dining, is it top shelf?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And then
Yes.
it's all three.
But is it when you go to?
Blanco,
Do you
and
see
rap.
it?
Yeah.
I'm talking about De Leon.
No.
You never saw it, right?
No.
It's not being marketed the same.
Disgusting.
It's
And nobody
They're
embraced
all
it.
disgusting.
Okay, how you explain Tito's?
It's a thing called hidden influence.
Yes.
I don't have to tell you to drink Hennessy, but if I put Hennessy in front of you, if I market it correctly, if I put it in the right situations, subconsciously you're gonna start to buy it. One person's gonna buy 100 bottles. You see that there's none of these things are accident. This is done by design. How they push these products is done by design. So yeah, they didn't push Casamigos like with a rapper's face on it, but don't think that it wasn't pushed to the culture for sure. It was definitely pushed to the culture, and as a result, George Clooney became a billionaire off of that.
Yes, but De Leon was pushed to the culture too. It just sucked.
Not
Yes,
like,
it did.
Not like that.
No, it was nasty.
But I'll tell you what,
Cut it out.
I'll tell you what it felt like happened. It felt like Diddy used his favors for Ciroc, and you had every rapper doing it, right? Fab just talked about Coco Loso, that he tried to trademark it, and Diddy already trademarked it.
Yeah.
These rappers did it. So when it came to De Leon, you didn't see the same amount of rappers pushing De Leon. Like she said, you see Young Miami, but
know
outside
why?
of that, you ain't see Fab, you ain't see
know
French,
why?
you ain't see
Nah,
Jay.
don't do that.
You know
don't
why?
do that. Don't do
'Cause
that.
It was nasty.
Or they got game.
Scott's
They saw the
crazy.
game from
Scott.
Ciroc and they said, and you saw this. How many of those guys try to create their own liquor brands?
Correct.
Because they wanted to replicate the success. Like when you said, like when people start copycatting, that's almost a good thing, right? Sometimes it's a good thing. Like you want to replicate good business. And so some of those guys said, you know what? We did this for Ciroc. We were Ciroc boys. Let's create our own brands. And you saw that. I don't know if it has as much to do with the taste of it. I mean, like you said, most liquor to me is disgusting,
Yeah.
right? Like Hennessy is not the greatest taste, but as a culture, we consume it like at a different
biggest.
level, over-indexed in it, right? So I don't think it's a taste factor. It really is like a marketing factor and
It's a
who's
taste
who.
factor.
Or is
No
it?
liquor is good.
Hennessy is smooth. Remy is smooth. Like
But
these are cognac.
what did Jay say? They drank Belvy out of just to spite you, right? Like, so maybe it's a situation of they didn't really realize what was happening with Ciroc. Ciroc blows up, then Diddy becomes a billionaire. I'm not supporting this shit no more. He's already a billionaire. We don't want to see each other win, really.
You know, what Envy's saying. Envy's bringing this up because of a conversation that happened that never aired.
What's that?
Remember when last time Diddy was up here?
Are you going to get?
Well, I'm just saying.
now we don't
that's,
remember.
that's something I asked Diddy. I
Right.
said, yo, don't you think it was kind of like, I forgot the word I used, but it's just like, misleading that, you know, when Ciroc came out, we was saying
thought
it was
you
black
owned it.
owned, black owned,
Black
black
owned,
owned.
and you didn't, yeah.
You know, you own 30% equity, which is good, but it wasn't necessarily black owned. And now you're fighting this company because it was never black
After
owned.
it's not black owned.
But
Yeah,
you,
it was-
you volunteered that lie to people.
What he say?
Can you please take it out the interview?
Yes, they have to. We had a whole discussion about it.
Thanks, guys.
But he did ask us to take it
Perfect
out.
time.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask too about, you know, entrepreneurship and a beautiful struggle, right? So you guys have a lot of people that come to you that work a 9 to 5 and want to be entrepreneurs. And it always comes back to when Dame Dash was up here and told people that, you know, pretty much you shouldn't work a 9 to 5. You should be your own entrepreneur. What do you say to that with people coming out, especially with this landscape of what's going on in the world today? What do you say to those people?
I don't think it's one thing or the other. I think it could be both, and I'm a testament to that. So, like, while he was having that interview in 2015, I was a phys ed teacher, right? 2018, when I think we finally came in contact, or 2019, I was still a phys ed teacher, but I was starting a business. Why? Because I knew that my salary was not going to provide the life that I wanted long-term for my family. And so one of the things of being around entrepreneurs like Rashad and our other partner Mike, I'm watching them create their own freedoms. I'm watching them create their own salaries. I'm watching them being able to create generational wealth from something that they own. I would have worked in that school district for 20 years, and that didn't guarantee anything for my kids. And so I always tell people, like, your 9 to 5 is your first investor. I looked at the school district like, this is an investor, right? They're getting return on their investment because I show up every day. I'm making sure I do my job. The kids are enjoying it. They're learning. The growth is there. That money that I made, now I got to figure out how I can, number one, invest it, but how can I create business? At the time, Earning Leisure became that business. And now you got the guy who was a 9 to 5 that now was doing entrepreneur stuff on his break. Like, I'm shooting ads, right? Shout out to Black Effect when we were doing that. I'm shooting those on my lunch break. I'm shooting those in the bathroom. Everything I'm doing is, I still got the 9 to 5, but now I'm having this entrepreneurial journey. Eventually, the entrepreneurial journey took me out of my 9 to 5, and now this is the full-time thing. So I think you could do both.
Dame, probably, in my opinion, the most impactful interview that you guys have ever done.
I think it aged terribly, but continue.
Why terribly?
Why
Terribly?
Because of who he? Because of him?
Sort of, kind of, but I think the missing piece of that interview is what y'all do. The missing piece of that interview was the how.
Well, that's the thing.
We was listening.
So sometimes you got to spark the. Dame is great at saying things but not fully explaining it, and then kind of going off the rails sometimes. But what he did during that interview was to get a lot of people focused on entrepreneurship. It was triggering for a lot of people, but it's important. He went to the extreme, but entrepreneurship is important. That's vitally important, and especially in our communities. Even most Black entrepreneurs don't employ any people. So that's really you're not really even an entrepreneur at that point in time. You just are working for yourself. I mean, so as far as the business side of it, for him to kind of say that, it was insightful. And I think it definitely got people thinking like on a different level. So to answer your question, I think everybody doesn't need to be an entrepreneur, but we do need to encourage entrepreneurship for sure. And like you said, you can be an employee and have a business as well. There's no job security.
No, in entrepreneurship now.
No, in
any job, really.
Jobs.
Yeah, right.
Like there's no job security. We're talking about AI is going to take 200 million jobs in the next 10 years. No job that you have, you can just say, okay, I'm just going to work this job and I'm going to be okay. And even if you do work that job, your wage is going to stay the same. So inflation is going up and wages are staying the same. How this is why debt's going up, because people is making up for what they're not earning in money and they're putting it on their credit card. So entrepreneurship, like we always going to push that. That's very, very important.
I agree, but y'all always deliver the how to. The reason I say that interview aged terribly because if you watch it with no context and you just watch it, you're like,
cookies.
Sure, I want to be my own boss, but how? You know, like what does that look like? And am I a piece of shit because I'm just an employee now?
Right. But that interview was needed, right? Because that sparks two guys from Greenburgh, New York, that are watching that. He's an entrepreneur. I'm working a 9 to 5, and what he's saying, I'm like, damn, there's truth to that. I remember sitting there like, I could work here for 40 years, and this school's never gonna have my name on it. What am I leaving for my son? What am I leaving for my daughter? Right? So then, as we're teaching kids in the summer, right, now we're putting those lessons in there. Entrepreneurship, how do you create business? Which businesses or which job do you need if you don't have a car? All these things are being sparked from that. So I'm taking the word terribly out of it. I think it definitely is the most important.
Why don't y'all do that? Why don't y'all like revisit that interview? Because it should be like the 10-year anniversary of that. Why don't y'all two in particular, I'm serious, like, revisit that interview and break down the how as he's talking? Because I think that would serve a generation.
10 years.
Better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's an idea.
I was gonna ask. Do you
right
remember
The title.
Do it. No, we can.
Hey,
We can.
yo, right here, right now. Hey,
No,
yo.
we can.
So before y'all do
Jess.
that, yeah, the title of the book is "You Deserve to Be Rich," but like less. What is your definition of rich, versus wealthy? Because I want to be wealthy.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Like, is that in the book somewhere? I can figure that out. Like for my kids and for, how do I?
We actually had this debate about whether we should use. He wanted to use the word wealthy.
Yeah, I did.
Because I know how to. We gotta talk to the people.
Yeah.
And I know, rich is a word that we still figuring this thing out. Like, you know what I mean, as far as a people.
What is rich? Yeah.
So you gotta crawl before you walk, right? So wealthy is the ultimate goal for sure, but you gotta get rich before you become wealthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you was gonna say something.
No, I was gonna say exactly that, right? Like the first step to building wealth is you gotta get rich.
Yeah.
You gotta figure out what systems you're gonna create to make sure that you can have money in your account that's number one, you can invest, which is gonna help you get rich. And then wealth is something that's forever. And we want everybody to have it forever. but we know that it just takes one person in the family to get rich, right? So like now you become the CEO of your family. Now how do you allocate that? And that's part of the book too. It's like, yes, a lot of us in here are CEOs for our families, but nobody has the guide to tell us what to do when we're now the CEO. How do you now lend money to your friends? How do you say no to your cousins? Right? Like nobody tells you how to do anything. How do you now prepare for your children, right? Congrats, like I know you just had a new one. How do you now prepare for your child to make sure that the wealth that you've now created is now passed down? We always talk about wealth in our community, but again, it's all first generation. Envy, your first generation. We're first generation. How do we make sure that it gets passed down to your kids? We don't know, right? How do we make sure that it gets passed down to your kids' kids? That's generational wealth. That's what we've seen in other communities, but there was never a guide. And that's why we came out with the book, because it was like, here's the guide. Here are the steps to make sure that you have sustainable wealth. Not just generational, but sustainable, because that's the goal, right? Your kids shouldn't have to work as hard as you did to get to it. So first get rich, and then we're going to be wealthy.
That's why I believe it's been such a rise of financial literacy in our culture over the last 10 years. That's why the platforms like y'all work, or, Trap, or 19 Keys, whoever it is, because you got all these motherfuckers wanting to be entrepreneurs because of the Dame interview. but there's no how to. There was no how to.
That's why we came.
That's why we here.
That's right.
That's why we here. This week it marks 6 years of Earn Your Leisure, and it's encouraging. 6 years, yeah. It was a strong 6 years. So, hopefully, and God willing, to be playing more years, because there's still more work to do.
The intro is the American Dream remix, which I find fascinating, because how would you define the American Dream in 2025?
Yeah, the American Dream, we say like the American Dream is a lie, because it's like the American Dream is work hard and, have your family, and, and that's only a recipe for just to be stressed out and to be broke for your whole life. The dream for me is to be able, like, even going back to like what is rich. So people say like, what's your definition of rich? Like, I feel like when you can live life on your terms, that's a blessing. Like when you can wake up when you want, when you can travel when you want, when you can, go to the restaurant and not have to worry about how much money you have, because you got it. Like, what I mean? Like send your kids to school. Like that's how I look at it as far as like, being rich. Like, not just having to worry about day-to-day struggles and, pinching Peter to pay Paul and worrying about how you're going to get enough money to pay rent next week and stuff like that. So that's my American dream. Like, you know what I mean? Being able to employ people. That's important. Like, we employ probably 30 people. Like, that's a good feeling, man. It's a good feeling to actually be able to support somebody else's economy. You know what I mean? Like, you're responsible for them in a certain sense, as far as how they put food on their table. Like, that's like how we really moving this thing forward.
It's a personal situation for me, right? Like, first generation American, parents from Jamaica. The American dream was get the big house with the white picket fence and have a and my parents actually got to it, but they didn't have financial education. We lost that house. I ended up living in a basement. And so, like, the dream has to be remixed, because everybody's not starting at the same point, right? Had my parents started with education, who knows? I don't even make it to this point, right? So, like, everybody's dream is going to be different. We used to be pitched that, but we're seeing a lot of different starting points. We're starting to see a lot of new innovation. We're starting to see more people that look like us create wealth. So people are creating their realities more than their dreams, right? Like, they just asked us, did you ever dream that it would be like this? No. Who thinks that you're going to create a podcast that turns into a media conglomerate that's educating millions about finance? Nah, man, I just wanted to make 6 figures when I was in middle school. That was it. And we're turning realities. And now people are finding like, hey, my reality is more important than some of those things I dreamed about. They could be goals, but we got to turn these things into reality.
I think we said that last time you were here, that people's dreams change, right? Because, my dad, who's a retired police officer, his dream was to work 20 years, retire, and his son go to college. That was his dream, and he was happy with that. He stays in the same house that he did, 40 years ago, and he's happy. But my dreams change, you know what I mean? And that makes my kids' dreams change, right? You know what I mean? My kids are, but, I also wanted to go back to something that you said too. You said when you get to a certain point, people start to hate on you, and people, especially in our community. How do we change that mindset, right? And the reason I say that is my son go to the University of Miami, and his roommates, they help each other build wealth, right? And it's something I've never seen before, because I didn't have those friends. I didn't have, but I mean, first, my friends didn't know, but is something that I've never seen before. I thought I opened up my kids to something I didn't have, but they opened up my kid paws to something that is way past anything I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Definitely pause.
That's way past anything I've seen.
How do we change that? That's why I had to pause that. So how do we change
Charlotte,
that mindset?
take that out the interview, please.
No, I'm leaving that right in. He said worse.
Nah, honestly, bro, I mean, it's a good question. It's gonna take a generation, honestly. Like it's so much trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So much trauma, like, you know, as far as how we look at ourselves, and you know, it's really deep rooted, and they've done a number on us, man. Even if you go to the continent, like, you know, it's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves.
They've done a number on us, and we've done a number on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Both things are true.
For sure.
Man,
Yeah, both things are true.
For sure.
But it's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take demonstration. Like the education is important, but it's going to take demonstration. It's going to take me working with you and people watching that. It's going to take me working with Jess and seeing us create business and then replicating that. To see it's okay. Like, I want to celebrate your wins. I'm celebrating your wins. We need to see, we're starting to see more of that. Like, as people create more businesses that are scalable, that's important too, having scalable business. And people champion that. Not just saying, yo, I'm going to support your clothing line because you're my friend, right? Really pour into that business. If you can add something to it, figure out a way. But it's going to take the demonstration of us doing it together. I mean, if we haven't realized that we all we got, like,
y'all both saying amazing things that I totally agree with. You said something just now. Yeah, if I create a scalable business, you should allow me to scale it. Let me scale it and let me sell it without calling me a motherfucking sellout.
oh,
That's a fact. I mean,
oh boy,
You know what
that's
I'm
a
saying?
fact.
I mean, that comes from it's very complicated issue, but well, all right, detour. One of the most dangerous things you can do is help somebody. Right? That's one of the most dangerous things you can do, because it's never what you didn't do for a person. It's never what you did to a person. It's what you didn't do for them.
Yeah.
Right. And this happens all the time in business and person. And as you climb up the ladder, you see, I'm sure all of you've seen it before. It's like you help somebody, you try to put somebody on, you try to, you know, you're trying to be a good black person. And ultimately it leads to disappointment because you couldn't do one thing that they really wanted.
Right.
And then that leads to them tarnishing your name and slandering you. And like I said, it could potentially end up, you know, getting killed. Rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. So it's just like, it's so complicated. Like when you really talk about like, okay, how do we get past this? Cause like we have a problem with everybody has to be number one. That's one thing I noticed. Like we have a real problem with that. Like it's never a shared power type situation. It's never like, okay, I'm comfortable being number two. I'm comfortable being number three. Well, I'm running my race. It's like when you get to a certain point, it's all love until you get to a point where you're on top or you're perceived to be on top. Then that's a problem, because nobody wants to see a black person on top, unfortunately, white or black. That's just a fact.
I agree. And you said something else too, Rashad, that I totally agree with. And that lets me know the intention is right. And that's what I like about the book. And that's why I like what y'all do, period, because the intention is always right. You said you got 30 employees. That's the conversation people don't have enough. How many people are you helping? Or is what you building only benefiting you? If so, it's not big enough.
That's a fact.
Like, how many jobs are you creating?
That's a fact.
How much money have you put in people's pockets?
That's the lesson that you hear, right? So every time we get to sit down with somebody from that level of wealth, that's the question. Are you dreaming big enough, right? Is this like, how do we make this vision bigger? Robert Smith has said it to us. Steve Harvey said. Everybody says the same thing. It should scare you, and it really should, right? Like you should feel like, how are we gonna get this done? But the beauty is in the journey of getting it done, because you know it isn't about you. Every day we wake up, we know this isn't about us. There's somebody that is relying on the information that we give to change their life every single day, right? Whether it's from social media on Instagram, or they're watching Market Mondays, or they're watching Earn Your Leisure, or they're watching anything that we put out. They're watching it with the intent that this information is going to change my life. And that's like God work, right? Like that's bigger than us. And, you know, it's a great responsibility, but this is what we've been bestowed with.
I want to go back to the DEI combo, Rashad. How do you think a lot of these corporations rolling back on the DEI programs is going to impact black people?
It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. As far as like funding for different initiatives, or if you try and get sponsors for different events, or it's not going to be good. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. And you got to create your own, but that's another thing about being an entrepreneur. They can't take it away from you. Like, I mean, as far as like the DI, they cannot fund it to the certain level, like us at InvestFest, right? We do InvestFest every year. one of the biggest events when it comes to business in the world. Not for black people, for any people. Our biggest struggle is sponsorships. We don't have a problem getting A-list celebrities. We don't have a problem getting 20,000 people. We don't have a problem getting billionaires. We got a problem getting sponsorships. It's going to be even harder. Like that's just the reality. So it impacts us on that level, even though we're entrepreneurs. If we're trying to rely on corporate sponsorships, because they only look at black people as charity. That's just a fact. Like we have investors doing it. We pitch it to this company. They're like, okay, well, let's see how this fits in our DEI bucket. See, the problem is that they don't look at you as a regular like person. So if it was just if we was a white company, they'd be like, this is just good business.
Yeah.
Black, they don't see 20,000 people. They don't see billionaires. They don't see millions of dollars in the marketplace. They look at this as like, okay, this is a community give back, charity initiative, DEI initiative. Okay, how can we fund this, right? Then what they do is they'll have like $10 million in a bucket for black people, but their marketing budget is $100 million. So that $10 million got to go to you, me, every single person, right? We all fighting for $50,000, $10,000, $25,000, and it comes with all kinds of contingencies. You got to post on social media and do the whole dog and pony show. But it's the same way that we look at Africa. We doing a development in Africa. We build it in Ghana, and there's a lot of people that was happy for it. But some people like, yo, why y'all doing this? Like, you know, the locals ain't gonna be able to afford it. They buy properties in cash. People have money in Ghana. Everybody's not rich, but everybody's not poor either. But psychologically, when we think about Africa, we only think about potbelly, poor, begging for money. We look at the continent as a charitable endeavor only. And that's how white people look at us in America. They don't look at us as business. They look at us as charity. So that's going to be taken out. Charity is first thing that's going to be taken out. It's expendable, right? Because if it's real DEI, if you really that's why I don't even like the term DEI. It's just business. It's going to be good business or it's going to be bad business. Like I said, Robert Smith has a better rate of return than most of the white money managers. Right. So it's like, it's in your best interest to have him manage. Like, it's not, okay, I'm just going to give him $10 million because he's black and it's going to be good for my conscience. He knows what he's doing. He's educated, smart.
And he's not the only one. That's what I said. And even like the struggles that we have, that perception of like, yo, y'all at the top. So if we have any struggles, imagine the people who are trying to build on the way up, right? So like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the fight. And we're trying to kick down the door. Black Fact, same thing. We're trying to kick down the door so that we can have more people coming through the space because people are looking at it like, this is viable. I want to have a voice. They have created different systems other than just the podcast, and they've seen it. But I'm telling you, like, on the other end of this, right, like when we get to the hill and we're looking over and like, yo, these are the challenges that we're facing, like, who's going to meet the challenge?
But that's this is the hard, it's difficult to express this because if people be like, okay, well, you're a millionaire, you're already successful, nobody's going to have sympathy. Right, but it's like, yeah, we have 30 people, but if we were bigger, we could have 3,000 employees. All of our billionaires are worth $1 billion and $2 billion. You don't find that strange? Jay-Z's he's supposed to be worth $30 billion. All that he's done. Sam Bankman-Fried, nobody even knew of him, and he was worth $35 billion. Look at all the stuff that Jay-Z's done to be worth $2 billion. Oprah's worth $2 billion. Robert, like everybody's worth $2 billion, or Tyler Perry's worth $1 billion.
Rob ran up to now.
I'm not mad at that perspective, but it is. All of this is new for us. You're talking about the people who had a 400-year head start on us. I mean,
no. But what I'm saying is that they don't. There's a glass ceiling that you hit, right? And the general public is not going to have sympathy for it because they just trying to pay their rent. I get it, but it's like Elon Musk is worth $400 billion, but who's the biggest buyer of his products? You know?
No, I don't.
The United States government. He has more government contracts than almost anybody.
Absolutely.
Right? Is that entitlement? Because if it was a black person, they would say it was only because of DEI. So what I'm saying, he has help. He has help to get to different levels. You don't get to a billionaire, 400 billion by yourself. You need a lot of help. You need corporate sponsorships. You need government relationships. These is things you start to max out. You start to hit the ceiling if you're black. And like I said, it's difficult to express that to people because they're not going to have sympathy for it. I'm talking about black people.
Yeah, they call you complaining. Like, you know, you see it all the time. You see somebody else do an Invest Fest that's white. You see all the sponsorships in the world, right? You see everything. You see everybody from McDonald's to Delta to private jets to all these corporations. But same thing, they'll be like, all right, we'll give you $10,000. You'd be like, but you just gave him $1 million. You see it all the time. I see it
no
that
questions
all the time.
asked and no proof of concept before the event. We've actually been to that. But I think like what he's saying, even with the ceiling for definitely black Americans, like Like Robert Smith does hit 9 million, but we've never seen somebody surpass double digits in the billions.
Right.
In America, until you go look at who has the wealthiest amount of people in the world of people of color, right? And then you go to the continent, and then you see Aliko Dangote. In 2017, he was worth 21 billion, but you never heard about him. Nobody teaches you about him. You actually got to go do your own research. But that could be something that's inspirational for a kid. Wait, he didn't come from sports. He didn't come from entertainment. What did he do? How did he, 21 billion? We never even heard of his name, right? And then you start going down the list of the wealthiest black people in the world. Top 5 are all coming from the continent, right? Before we even get to Robert Smith. And so like the education part, that's, again, something that they're trying to take out of schools,
That's right.
They don't want us to know about that. That needs to be taught. That's why like this moment and what we're doing is super important, because it gives light to those situations to inspire.
You got a chapter called Paying the Other Tax. What's the other tax?
Like friends, family, you know, the black tax.
Oh,
Like
Lord.
you're responsible for a lot
Y'all know,
of stuff.
y'all know what that is.
You know what I mean? Like, so
Yes.
you got to make sure that your family's taken care of. You got to make sure that your parents take care of. You got to make sure that, you know, so
Especially now, because you told them they deserve to be rich.
you deserve to be rich on your own
But
merit.
that's a second edition. That's a second edition. But they gotta believe it.
That's a but you got to be careful with that. You know, it's like you have a, but we talk about having a budget in the book. Like if you're going to give money, you can give money, but have a budget. And it shouldn't just be like an ongoing situation. Like if it's irresponsible to borrow money from somebody that you know you can't pay back.
I agree.
But it's also irresponsible to loan money to somebody that you know can't pay you back. Both people are wrong in the situation,
I
and you
agree.
know if somebody can't pay you back.
If he's,
So why
give me
you-
10,000 until next Friday. Like you ain't never had 10,000 in your life.
How you gonna get it
Why would
back?
I give you that?
Exactly.
Nah, and then they'll come up with a plan of how they're gonna get it back. I'm gonna give you 7% interest over the next 3 years. I'm like, you don't have a job. How's this gonna work?
So I make everything go to my mom and pops. Like, if you can go through them, then yeah, but most people can't go through them. Because my mom and pop look like, nah,
They gotta
I worked
vet-
hard
they
for
gotta
it.
vet the situation.
Yep, they vetting the situation. So
Yeah,
it
but
is
people
what it
don't.
is.
When we first get into the money, people are watching it. We're still hanging around the same people that we kind of grew up with, right? Those people maybe have not done the same thing as far as creating wealth for themselves. So they're looking at you like you're the guy. They have, yo, I need something for Christmas for my kids. They're calling you. Yo, my man got. They're calling you.
I see the craziest ideas.
You know what I'm
man.
saying? It's
The craziest
You're the call,
entrepreneurship idea, yeah.
and like, who prepared you for that?
I like ideas though. I don't like just I'd rather an idea than just a request.
For sure.
You know what I'm
But
saying?
then
The
the idea
ideas
becomes
be crazy
some level
sometimes.
of entitlement. Like it's like, yo, I gave you this whole thing, all right, bro. And then it's like, yo, you're not gonna invest in my business? No.
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 Yeah, but I respect it.
No.
Yeah.
No, not respectfully, but they'll take that as like, damn, like why not?
Like
Like
fronting on me.
I'm not asking you for money. Well, technically you are, but you're not. I respect that you're doing it in a different type of manner, but there's a level of entitlement.
Yeah.
Nobody has to give you anything.
Mhm.
If somebody does give you something, then you should be grateful for it, and you should execute the best possible way you can go about it. But you're not entitled to something just because you know somebody.
I agree.
In the money principle chapter, you say how you feel about yourself is reflected in your relationship with money. What is the connection between the two?
That's your direct quote.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like if you don't love yourself, then you're gonna make bad decisions, right? And all right, so it goes back to a lot of different psychological things as far as, especially with us, like, you know, we have an inferiority complex that we never really fully acknowledged. So when you go to Dubai, you don't know who's who because everybody's dressed the same.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody dressed the same. You might have a watch, but other than that, nobody knows. They dress modest, men and women. There's wisdom in that. We have to have a better chain. We
Yeah.
got to have a better car. We got to have a better watch because we want to let you know that we have more money than you.
Well, stop being so fly, Rashad.
I mean, some things is just unavoidable.
God given.
Unavoidable.
No, but like he said, where you come from, is everything, right? You know, coming from Queens, is Queens get the money. It's everything. Now, where you guys come from,
We got.
now we look at you
We
guys,
grew
right?
up in hip hop culture, man.
You look online, and people say, all right, 15% saving, 55% bills, 20% investing, and then I look at some of your outfits, I'm like, they ain't putting 15%. Some of that is, and people look at that and be like,
everything in moderation.
That's an investment.
Everything in moderation. You gotta be balanced.
Telling these threats is an investment.
You gotta-
these prices investment.
You got to be balanced. So that's the good thing with us is that we shook up the game because we kept the culture That's why it's assets over liabilities.
Mm-hmm.
We never said don't have liabilities, but you got to have your priorities straight. Like, you shouldn't have you shouldn't have more money in bags than you have in the stock market. That's irresponsible. If you're a woman, you shouldn't have more money in sneakers than you have in the stock market. That's irresponsible. Now, you could have sneakers, you could have bags, because we are flashy people. This goes back to Mansa Musa. Like, it's just in our DNA. We are flashy, but we've taken it to a level of irresponsibility, right? Like, you don't need 10 chains. Wear one. You don't need to have 2 watches on. Just one watch tells time.
Nah, the 2 watch movement was crazy.
It's still happening.
They still doing that?
Yeah.
The 2 watch movement. It's crazy, but these are lessons, right? That's crazy. They're all lessons, right? That we had to learn. Like, we come up in hip hop, like, even like down to the title of this book. Like, we was like looking at Nas's album cover and said, "Yo, that's the font." Hip hop, we know there's a starter kit that comes with that, right? Absolutely. Like, and there's a relatability that comes with that when you see it, right? And so when you see somebody walk in, automatically, if they have those things, you think wealth until you get around people who are wealthy and they look nothing like that. But then there's a relatability from our community. It's like, there was a reason why I was wearing Jordans when I was teaching. I knew the kids respected that. Like, that was even though I love wearing Jordans and it was fly, there was a relatability. I wasn't
like that other teacher.
I wasn't like the other teacher. Right. They already automatically knew I was where they from, and they could relate to me without me saying a word. So now when people see us doing, like, well, how we dress, and Shotty over indexes on it, but there's a relatability because they've never seen somebody talk about finance. They never heard somebody sound this educated when it comes to business. And it's like, oh, wait, this is
I can't relate to the guy in the suit.
Muhammad Ali said that.
Channel.
Muhammad Ali said that verbatim.
I gotta get their attention.
Like, I gotta pull up in the Phantom. I
gotta
have
do it.
Ali said that. Well, he said the Rolls. I don't think he said Phantom. He said Rolls. Yeah.
So you could do it. Just don't. And even in relationships, right? I've been telling people, like, yo, the girl you're gonna get with the chain on is the same girl you can get without the chain on. Really, to be honest with you, but you don't feel confident in yourself.
Word up.
That's the insecurity that you have. But that chain is gonna lead to you getting robbed potentially. That chain is going to lead to you having to get insurance on it. You got to protect it. You got to look over your shoulder. Look at you're going to end up spending more money than the actual chain cost, right? So it's just like little stuff like that. Like, once you really get secure, it's maturity. Once you get mature, it's like, all right, I just want to just stash the money. I just want to just grow the money. I want to do this. I ain't really. You can do nice things, have nice stuff, but that's not my primary focus. My primary focus is not to get money and just throw it in a strip club.
Yeah.
It happens.
That principle you're talking about. The largest allocation, and most wealth managements don't do this. Investing is the second largest allocation, right? We talk about 55% spending, and that's not for frivolous spending. Obviously, the cost of living goes up, your mortgage, your rent, your bills, that student loan debt, all those type of things go into spending. But the next thing is invest, right? Like, that has to be a principle. We have to look at it like that's our phone bill. We have to have our brokerage account. We have to invest in the wealthiest companies in the world because we know long term, this is what the wealthiest people do, and this is how we're going to create it for ourselves. The next thing is savings. Because, yes, we need reserves, right? We don't want to go into a situation where, like, yeah, we spent our money, we've invested our money. What happens if there's an emergency? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to go back to your investment and say, all right, well, let me take from that because it feels like it's discretionary. Nah, that's there to grow wealth long term. Your savings is for your emergencies, if anything comes up. And then, obviously, charitably, we want to give back. And
that's the sharing part. The sharing is charity. It ain't just family, friends here.
Well, that's charity, kind of, if you look at it from that standpoint too. But can we talk about mental health real quick?
Please.
That's a big part too that I think we should talk about as far as when you start getting money. Like, it's not really talked about a lot. They should have like mental health professionals for people that's just getting money,
especially in sports.
For sure.
100%.
Every aspect, because there's so many different things that you gotta go through mentally that you can't prepare yourself for.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, when I was listening to Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan, and even guys like Elon Musk. Who prepares them to be multi-billionaires with that much power over the world?
You don't, and that's why you just start being Elon and just think
doing whatever you want, and try to figure out how to conquer.
Like, even me, like I got insomnia. I just started getting insomnia. Like, that shit is like bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Rashad making so much money he can't sleep. God damn.
Counting the money. Counting the money.
Damn.
Trauma's real. It's not it's not a conversation that's had. Right? Like, how many times have you talked about financial trauma in your household? Trauma is not even something just regular, like, we're not talking about, right? You speak on that all the time, and I think it's important, but financial trauma is important too, right? Like, we grow up saying, save your money, save your money, save your money. The wealthy do the opposite, right? They invest, they invest, they invest, right? We talk about, hey, let's create a business account or open a bank account. We go to check cashing, right? We put money under our bed. These are trauma responses, right? There's obviously somewhere we don't trust something. Either it's the system, the banking system, we don't trust ourselves with the money, or we don't want people to know we have it. That type of trauma never gets spoken about, and it's real. You know what I'm saying? These are real things that are happening on an everyday basis, but the first thing is to understand where the trauma comes from, which is the recognition part. How do we overcome it?
And
how do we change that?
And then you start thinking weird shit like, why do white billionaires have a infatuation with gangster rappers? That's weird. That's weird.
The music is good.
No.
So why you sleeping on the music? The music slaps.
No, it's one thing to like a music, but I'm just saying, all right, if you're a white billionaire, right, and you appreciate black culture, I can appreciate that. But if you only surround yourself with rappers and entertainers, well, that tells me that you don't really value black culture.
Give me some examples.
You only value black culture from an aspect of they're here to entertain you. Because if you really value black culture, you would have Tamika Mallory there. You could have, the senator from X, Y, and Z state.
So you're not going to a Michael Rubin or a white party?
No, it's not about that, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Damn, there goes our invite.
I don't know why we do that to Rubin. I think Rubin.
Nah, it's not Mike Rubin. It's a lot of people, though. It's a lot of them. It's a lot of them. Or they might not be billionaires, but they're close to it. It's a lot of them. And it's weird. And it's weird how the rappers look at them, because they would never do that for a black billionaire.
Well, you know what? Like, what did Little Baby tell you about when you asked him about people saying he's always around Mike Rubin in your YouTube?
He gives them information and all that. No, I appreciate
and investments.
No, I appreciate. I'm just saying that. Okay, if you're a white billionaire, you have nothing in common with Ty Dolla $ign. You have nothing in common with a gang member from Compton. You have nothing in common, right? So what I'm saying is that, okay, you appreciate this music, but if you embrace black culture, embrace all of black culture, because then it starts to look weird. And now you start to just put on a pedestal, which some would deem the worst parts of elements of our culture. And you're highlighting it, and you're amplifying messages that's not beneficial. So it's like, and like I said, I mean, if you're black, you looking up to somebody who has more money than you, I can appreciate that because they're giving you information, but it's weird too. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I wonder if it's the white person's fault or is it our fault for making that so cool?
It's both. Donald Trump, this is how Donald Trump became popular. He used black culture and he got filthy rich off of it with real estate and all of that too. But I'm saying that's how he became like real celebrity. And then he turned and did a 180.
Because nobody told these rappers to mention Donald Trump in all their records. Nobody told these rappers to put the name songs after Trump.
It goes both ways.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. It's a predatory practice. That is.
Kanye hugged him in the White House and said, "You're like my dad."
Yeah, but
Kanye,
chill.
Kanye.
Nah, chill.
He
did though.
No Kanye.
That did happen.
No Kanye slander.
Can we stop?
No Kanye slander.
Go back to the 80s though, right? Like there's this up and coming fighter from Brooklyn who's tearing up the scene, right? Who decides that he's gonna manage him?
Don King.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
First.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, go look it up. So he manages him. He decides that, like, you're up and coming. In fact, you're gonna fight at all your fights are gonna be where?
Atlantic City, down at Trump.
Right. So he already sees, like, here's the entertainment, here's the culture. This guy
But is that not good business?
I'm not saying it's not.
It's a difference between having good business and using something as a marketing strategy to boost your valuation, and you really have no infatuation with the situation at all, or you're only hyper-focused on one particular area. That's a question that needs to be asked, because it's a pattern that continues to happen. And when it's happened at least 20 times over the last 15 years with different people.
You're not wrong, but I see it both ways, and I'll tell you why.
They're not hip hop. They didn't grow up they're not hip hop. They're not like
but there's
I'm not buying it.
No, I agree, but it's all about what we choose to make cool, because there's a lot of billionaires that like to be around y'all now because the culture made y'all cool. And it's the same thing with the artists, it's the same thing with the athletes. So it's really kind of up to us. Like, what do we make cool in our culture?
Yeah, I think what separates us is, and shout out to everybody that we've gotten information from, but when we get information, we giving it back to y'all.
That's right.
Like, that's the first, right? We're not just sitting there, but like, yo, because we want to look cool or we want to go to your party. Nah, what's the information? Like, give it to us in a real time so we can disseminate it and give it back to more people to help them.
And
right?
don't hug me from the back.
But like you said, it's
They were wrestling, Jess.
Thanks, Jess.
Okay.
It was wrestling.
but it's all culture. Like you said, it's what makes my business cool. You know what I mean? I could own any type of business, but when you're part of it, it makes it cool.
Right.
Like let's think of jerseys, right? We've never owned any jerseys, but we always made it cool. Where jerseys are selling out when Mitchell and Ness, I don't even know who the owner of Mitchell and Ness was. I never seen that guy in my life.
And on
But
another,
we made it cool.
And he's not wrong.
Same guy you just talking about.
But also with y'all, it's
Mike
like
Rubin? He owns it now. He owns it now, but before he didn't own it before.
EYL having billionaires at InvestFest helps EYL.
No,
But it helps the culture too, though.
But I'm saying, so why would two cool black
dudes
dudes want to hang with corny ass
What
billionaires?
I'm saying is that we have a wide spectrum of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked to rappers, we've talked to astronauts, we've talked to the vice president, we've talked to CEO of companies, we've talked to literally every single spectrum. Every single spectrum. We're not just only focused on rappers because we're a business platform. That would be weird. If we were a business platform and the only requirement to get on our show is that you had to be a rapper or you had to be an athlete, then that's questionable. It's questionable, right?
Yes, to a certain extent. The only reason I say to a certain extent is because they have to be introduced, because we're not putting these people on. We're not like, I love Tamika Mallory. We try to amplify Tamika every chance we get. You know, like Tamika got the podcast with Black Effects. I got books with Black Privilege publishing my
do a better job of researching. You're a billionaire. You worth $100 million. You got a research department.
Mm-hmm.
Do a better job of researching, because you researched this person who was a no-name rapper from Mississippi who had a buzz. You researched this person.
But doesn't have. Okay, you're right. But doesn't it have to be beneficial to both parties though?
But that's what I'm saying. What is the beneficial part of it? You're leeching off of a culture, right? How is that beneficial? Who's it beneficial for?
What do you mean?
benefit? If somebody is using your culture to benefit themselves, who's that beneficial for? You said it's beneficial for both parties.
Yeah.
How is it beneficial for the other party? Where's the other party benefiting from?
Well, in the case, I'm only using this one example.
Mike Rubin.
Exactly.
Mill.
In the case of Mike Rubin.
I don't want to keep saying Mike Rubin.
I know,
but that's the one that we know.
But in the case
gonna
of Mike
send us a
Rubin,
letter.
hey, yo, Meek, $200,000, invest in this, you'll get your biggest return, which he did
A year later.
in lids,
$8 million,
whatever.
yeah, lids.
Yo,
Lids,
Meek,
lids.
let's start this reform. I saw what happened with your situation. Let's start this thing called reform, and let's help get other black men and black women out of prison, which he did.
No, he did. $8 million. How much did Mike Rubin's valuation go up?
Billion, sure.
No, from 2012 to 2024, how much you think it would have?
Oh, I think it was like $4 billion. It was a lot.
Try 26 billion.
It was $26 billion?
He was worth 7 to 8 billion then. He's worth 30 something now.
Should I be wrestling?
So you think
niggas
that's
too?
just so you think that's
from the
just
back.
because
Right
of
from
his
the back.
association with hip hop culture?
Damn.
It helps. What I'm saying is Elon Musk.
Did you know him prior to that?
Hmm?
Did you know who he was prior to it?
No, I didn't know. who
Elon
he was.
Musk put $200 million into a political campaign. That's a lot of money.
Absolutely.
He made $200 billion from it. It's a good investment.
Mm-hmm.
Who really won? Who benefited? Who benefited from that situation?
Both. Elon and now Donald Trump is president of the United States of America.
Well, he's
and
already been president.
And Elon's going to continue to benefit because Donald Trump, they got that Doge shit now, which is supposed to clean up and
Just make your own shit up.
clean up government regulation. Exactly. They're
Government
going to be
spending.
making up shit. He's going to make it easier for him to do business all over the world.
Donald Trump was going to win with or without Elon.
I don't know about that.
100% no. April. I went to.
I don't know about that.
I went to D.C. in April when Joe Biden was still running. Spoke to the head of the Democratic Party coalition, whatever. They asked me how I felt about the situation. I said, "There's no way that Trump loses. I don't see it. There's no way that Trump loses. There's no way."
But you know why you felt like that? Because over the last couple of years, when Elon Musk started to shift the narrative on X and started to amplify so many different right-wing talking points, and having the largest media platform in the world with X, you couldn't compete with that.
He's not even the largest media platform, but he had the foresight to say, I need a media platform. And once I got it, I'm taking it private.
But I'm just
You
saying,
see what I'm saying?
it just felt. I'm talking about just on Instagram, just black people. I'm talking about black people in the barbershop. They like, yo, I'm rocking with Trump.
Last 2 years, they amplified conservative messaging on
And
social
nobody
media.
liked Joe Biden.
And Joe Biden was like, yeah, he
Joe
was.
Biden, nobody liked Biden.
I agree with that. He was done.
So Trump was favored to win, regardless.
Yes.
So Elon helped the situation, but did he really get him elected? Probably not.
He helped a lot.
I think he helped. He helped a lot.
A lot, Rashad.
So you don't think he would have got elected without Elon?
He
won every state.
If he was running, if he was running against Biden,
he won every swing state, bro.
Yeah. I'm not disputing that. I'm just simply saying we can't act like Elon didn't
You
help a
saying
lot.
because of the messaging it helped him?
Hell yeah. Yeah.
I think he has. I mean, Fox is a
Hell
conglomerate
yeah.
that has just as many people.
X is bigger than Fox.
So when you
It's on social media.
No, X is bigger than Fox, period.
In terms of what? Viewership?
Distributing news? Easily. And yes.
what's the social media platform? All right. Okay. Elon Musk, right? Inside, if you just thinking like how he would think, do you think that he really did this because he wants to champion Donald Trump? Or do you think he did this because he wants total control and will do whatever he wants and he sees a pathway to become a trillionaire? And
The latter.
All of the above.
No, the latter. No.
All of the above.
Absolutely. the
Trillion
latter.
out.
No,
Yeah.
Absolutely. The
I
latter.
think he believes he's Tony Stark in real
Yes.
life.
Yeah, all of the above.
In real life.
Absolutely the latter. Elon does not care about Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form.
So that's the only way to try to throw a curveball is to try to separate them from each other, right? Try to figure out how they can say disparaging things, but I don't see it happening.
But then it'll just be another wealthy
That's what I'm
rich
saying.
man who will come in and donate money to the Republican Party. Like it's just wild to me. Like everybody's acting like Elon is the bad guy in this situation when this has been happening in American politics forever. Elon's just the person showing his face.
Yeah.
George Soros just got a Medal of Freedom 2 weeks ago, guys. Remember when he was the boogeyman?
The Koch brothers.
Remember when George Soros was the boogeyman for American politics? He just got a Medal of Freedom from Biden 2 weeks ago.
He did it at the highest level. Elon did it at the highest level.
That's usually what happens.
That is. You're right.
That's usually what happens. Somebody shows you the way, and you come along and do
blueprint.
it.
Guys,
That's usually what
Guys,
happens.
they got a book out right now.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah, that
they
too.
do. This is part of the book.
You deserve to be
yes.
rich out right now. Make sure y'all get it.
Thank you.
When is the next Invest Fest?
August, we ain't announced the date yet, but we'll be back this summer. ATL.
Yeah.
In August.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
of the producers said if you're looking for a man, come to Invest Fest. Is that true?
Oh yeah, it's a great thing as far as like women. There was a whole thread on.
It's true, Jess.
Yeah.
There's a whole thread about like
Yeah.
women trying to find, but vice versa too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, you gotta think about it. Who comes to Invest Fest? People that want to get their stuff in order. People that's already has their stuff in order. People that's entrepreneurs. People that's invested.
Mm-hmm.
People that's responsible.
People that's looking for a life partner.
So yeah, that's the wave right there.
Yeah.
We might have a speed.
We helping out the communities in more way than one.
Yeah.
But before we go, this is my last question. One guest that we'll never get to see on EYL, which I just think is a travesty, is the late great Nipsey Hussle. But y'all did the conclusion in the book, Loaded Bass, is one of my favorite Nipsey records. Break that down.
You know, Nipsey Hussle was somebody that was a great inspiration for us and somebody that we targeted. We wanted to have Nipsey as like when we first started. And unfortunately, that couldn't happen. But it's just crazy how life works because we developed such great relationships with every single person. Like his brother saying, like, that's really my brother. Like I call him when the fire is. I'm like, are you good? Like, that's bro. Like Lauren London came to Invest Fest, Kabi Supreme, his whole entire team. Like Dave Gross, everybody. And they all said the same thing. They're like, yo, if Nip was here, he would rock with you.
Be right here with you.
He wouldn't just do an interview. Like, y'all would have something.
Oh, he
going.
loved you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It meant a lot. It meant a lot to kind of incorporate him in the book in some way, somehow his legacy, because he played a part too as far as the entrepreneurship wave. Like there's been a few people. Rick Ross, he championed entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
Nipsey Hussle championed entrepreneurship. Jay, of course,
Absolutely.
Jay-Z. That goes without saying.
Dane Pop, all these people.
So Nip, man, just a great mind and just somebody who I used to listen to his interviews more than I listen to the music. I listen to the interviews. I'm like, damn, like this dude is really smart. Like he gets it. Like talking about cryptocurrency, talking about ownership, IP, all that type of stuff. I'm like, damn, he not like he was college educated, like off the street. So yeah, R.I.P. to Nip, man.
Yeah.
Definitely want to incorporate him.
I'm glad you caught that, man, because that hip hop is still who we are at our hearts. And so having Loaded Bases is one of the chapters, was one of those things. Having an A side and a B side was one of those things. Having Illmatic's font was one of those things, just because of the music means so much to us, and those people meant so much to us that we figured out, look, yeah, this is a book about financial education, but like, nah, hip hop as that is cool, and that was our way to pay homage to those people.
I do feel like y'all next book should be about the more of the financial trauma and just, mentally how being broke and being rich can impact you. Because, we've mentioned a couple of people here today, and it shows me that if you don't do the work on yourself, your talent can't take you or your character can't sustain you.
True.
So that's why it's important to do the work.
Yeah, Angie just asked us a question like that. She was like, do y'all feel the pressure of being at this level of success? And when I went home, I thought about it. I'm like, right, yeah, we already have certain characteristics. We're going to be financially disciplined. But, like, nobody ever is thinking, like, hey, at some point, what if you go broke? Like, the pressure of trying not to go broke once you got it, that's a real thing that, again, nobody talks about. But we've seen it happen over and over, and it's the sob story. But nobody cares for you, right? They waiting for you to come back down. So yeah, pray for all our millionaires. Pray for everybody that's building business and trying to create wealth for themselves and their family.
Well, there you have it.
You deserve to be rich. Master the inner game of wealth and claim your future. EYL, Rashad, and Troy, man. Appreciate y'all always.
As always, man. Thank you.
Always great conversation.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having us.
y'all.
Thank you.
That's right. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
In the morning.
The Breakfast Club.